Okay, good morning. We're going to talk about dividing complex numbers here, and I've discovered I can't touch the screen except in the very one place, which means I can't anchor my hand very well, but let's see what I can do. Here's a sample problem. It's not easy writing with a huge rubber tip. 5 plus 3i divided by 2 minus 5i. Okay, well basically we treat this like one of those problems where you have a radical in the bottom of a fraction, because remember that I is equal to the square root of minus 1. So there is a radical right here. Look back at the problem. There's a radical, and it's not allowed in the bottom. So all we do is get rid of it. Well, you need to know a special trick. When you have a binomial denominator, notice this is a binomial. If you try to multiply by I to get rid of the I, it's not going to work, and I don't want to spend a lot of time right now showing you why it won't work. I'd rather show you what does work. So you need to remember this key idea, and that is multiply the bottom by its conjugate. The conjugate of 2 minus 5i is what? Think of it. Hopefully your thought was 2 plus 5i. I think my writing will get better as I get more experienced with this. Now, of course, if you multiply the bottom of this fraction by 2 plus 5i, you've got to take the top and multiply it by 2 plus 5i. Okay, but now we're going to work this out. We're going to just focus on the denominator to see why it gets rid of the i's. Okay, so multiply with me. We're going to FOIL this here. 2 times 2 is 4. Now I'm hoping that you were thinking that before I wrote it. I'm going to pause a little bit for you to come up with the answers. Then 2 times 5i is plus 10i. You should be deciding what I'm going to write before I write it. Then minus 5i times 2 minus, it's just impossible to do this, minus 10i. And then lastly, the minus 5i times the positive 5i is minus 25i squared. Extend my fraction bar a little bit. Okay, now on the next step, we have to, of course, do the numerator as well. We'll come back and do that later. What we want to focus on here is the fact that when you do conjugates, what's special is that it'll always turn out that these two, the second and third multiplication, the inner and outer products, will always add up to 0. So you get this 4 minus 25i squared. Now remember that I squared is minus 1. So this becomes 4 plus 25, or 29. Okay, do you see, because I squared is a real number, when you square the square root of minus 1, when you square the square root of minus 1, you get minus 1, which is on the real number line. It's not it is not it has no imaginary part. and therefore it's legal. Okay, so by using the conjugate, you get the imaginary parts to add up to 0. The I squared becomes a real number, so then these two parts add up, and you have just a real number on the bottom, no longer any radicals or i's in the denominator of fraction. Okay, and I'm already 5 minutes into this video. Amazing. So let's go back and do the numerator now. 5 times 2, that looks like a 12 because my parenthesis wasn't so hot. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 5i is 25i. 3i times 2 is plus 6i. And 3i times 5i, hopefully you're thinking 15 I squared. Wow, learning to use this thing is something. I should go back to maybe using my finger. Okay, the 15I squared, well, it's just, I can't write up there, it's already a mess. 25i and 6i add up to 31i. And of course the 15i squared, that becomes, I squared is a minus 1, so that becomes plus 15 times minus 1.
Hey, did you get my Word document?
I did.
Okay, good.
How do I? Well, I just got interrupted. So I'm not exactly sure the last thing I said, but hopefully you'll see here we've got a 10 and a minus 15, which will add up to a minus 5. And then we've got the 31i. So here is, now, well, it's not our final answer as far as I'm concerned, but this is what most books will show you. But remember that the answer should be a complex number, and this is the form we like for complex numbers. So this doesn't look like that, but we can easily make it look like that if we just divide the 29. This is, of course, negative 5/29 plus 31/29 times I. And there is your A plus BI. A is the minus 5/29. B is the positive 31/29. And now you have a binomial in this form. And this is Mr. Wilson's preferred answer. Okay, oh wait, let me try something. This, this is Mr. Wilson's preferred answer. Ta-da! Whew. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Come back for the next show. Good night now. Bye.